Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. Am I loud enough? No, maybe a little louder. But anyways, my name is Scott Morgan, North Motor City Madmouth. Glad to be joined by Justin Rocke. And Justin, we're going to talk a little bit more about baseball today, but we're going to talk about NASCAR. And let's talk about the fact that I talked with Jim Jaworski earlier today, and we touched upon the fact that it is kind of neat that you have the Daytona Tortugas and obviously the Daytona International Speedway. You got Ville France, and you have all the NASCAR roads in front of us. So what's it like to be able to work in a city where obviously NASCAR really is king?
I mean, it's great. Luckily, the way the season sort of works out with NASCAR and baseball, especially with the way the races usually are down here in Daytona, it usually doesn't affect us a whole lot. Obviously the Daytona 500 is going to be in February. It's before our season even begins. So you get that madness out of the way early. And then, of course, there are races here during the summer. And, last time there was a race here during this summer, we were on the road, so it worked out perfectly. We were on the road for a week. All the fans come in for NASCAR. Came back, we're back in town, so all the fans can come out to Jackie Robinson Ballpark and check out the game then. But luckily, it's great, the passionate fan bases for both, and we're very lucky that there's a lot of intertwining of those fan bases here in Daytona Beach.
Well, that's an interesting point. Yes, folks, the Daytona 500 generally is in the month of February, so there is no conflict. But by the same token, do you find, though, that some of the drivers actually come by and take a look at Jackie Robinson Ballpark? After all, let's face it, this isn't just a ballpark, folks. This is Jackie Robinson Ballpark, where there is that thing called history, real history, baseball history.
Yeah, no, there absolutely has been NASCAR drivers that have come by here. In 2019, Chase Elliott stopped by, threw out a first pitch at a ball game in July, I think right around July 4th. I think we had like a meet and greet or something with him. I know we had a whole setup at the pavilion with his sponsors and Napa Auto Parts, and I mean, we had a whole shebang. I know in years past, before I was even here, we had NASCAR-themed jerseys as a part of our Best Dressed Team in Baseball series that obviously were very popular when we auctioned them off. So there is definitely a connection between NASCAR and the Tortugas during baseball season here in Daytona Beach, and luckily we've been able to have a few drivers come out and take in the fun.
Yeah, taking in the fun, like you just alluded to before. You're talking about throwing out the first pitch. Do you find that some of the drivers actually interact with some of the fans as well?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's hard for me to determine because a lot of that stuff happens during the game while I'm on air, and from our perch, it's a little hard to see what's going on necessarily with the stands. But every sort of celebrity we've had come out, we've sort of had some sort of meet and greet or some sort of ability for fans to get autographs or take a photo. I know that was the case for Chase Elliott in 2019. I mean, we've even had Daytona Beach's own Vince Carter out here on multiple occasions. He had a charity softball event. He did a live hit on SportsCenter from here, and I know in 2019 as well he did an hour-long autograph signing thing. So we've been very lucky to have a lot of different celebrities of all sports, NASCAR, and of course local basketball legends as well, come out and interact with fans and take part in a lot of the history here.
If I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Vince Carter is from the area. Is that correct?
That is correct. He did go to high school around here.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So therefore, you do have deep ties. I know this year though that the playoffs occurred in August. Okay, normally they do it they have a race in July. What was it like for the playoffs to occur in August when this is the last race going into the stretch run?
I mean, luckily for us, it sort of coincided with, the final homestand of our season. So, fans that are, diehard NASCAR fans and, are following every race on the weekend were able to come out, this weekend and take part in all our fun stuff and not have to sort of juggle their loves and where their eyeballs are going to be going. So, we've had fantastic crowds here this final week of the season, and part of our whole appeal here is, we've got a very rabid and great fan base. And so even with those diehard NASCAR fans, luckily 2021 you've got technology, and if you want to, you can watch the race on your phone while you're at the Jack here enjoying a beer and a hot dog and watching the baseball game as well. So luckily the way the schedule's worked out this year, it aligned quite well, and I think there's going to be some similarities with the schedule next year, at least on the baseball side of things, and hopefully it can continue to stay that way.
Yeah, I know I actually observed a summer race one time in July, and it is pretty neat. I don't know if you were here when they occurred, but what have you heard about the race when it does take place in July in terms of what goes on with baseball?
It can be a little bit crazy at times. I think, there's a lot of conversations between our front office, the leagues, the schedule makers. A lot of times they'll ask, what dates you want, what dates you don't want. And I'm sure there's been a lot of times and a lot of discussions about, trying to schedule road games around that midsummer race in order to not only, help us out in terms of crowd and, worrying about, whether or not, we'd be able to draw well enough while that race is going on. But in addition to that, just also mitigate some of the traffic and some of the chaos that can occur here. There's a lot of different things that happen in Daytona Beach, during the course of a normal baseball season between spring break and bike week, and the list goes on and on. So a lot of times we try and figure out with the schedule makers how we can best take advantage of not only our dates and our schedule, but all the events that are going on in and around Daytona Beach as well.
Yeah, well, that's true, folks. Baseball does have a lot of inventory. Therefore, you guys can move things around a lot easier, where NASCAR is pretty much limited to a couple of dates. Daytona is one of those areas where they're fortunate enough to get two races. One, obviously, during the Daytona 500, which doesn't affect you whatsoever. And, of course, one during the summer where there's a lot on the line, whether it's a July race or now in August. What are your thoughts about the NASCAR race, though, being scheduled in August, knowing that they're trying to make it mean something as they go toward the playoffs, where before it was like the Midsummer Classic, now you lean toward the playoff a little bit, just like you have your Super Bowl at the beginning of the year with NASCAR. You see where all that correlates there?
Yeah, no, absolutely do. The part of I'm sure the reasoning behind it is the fact that, this is such a NASCAR passionate area, and it makes sense to have, a race that has even more meaning outside of just the Daytona 500 in and around this area late in the season for NASCAR. So it makes total sense by me to have a race here a little bit later in the summer as they get closer to the postseason and things like that, because, as we've said, there's a lot of diehard NASCAR fans, and they know they're going to sell out the Motor Speedway down the road here every time they have a race in town, so that's for sure.
You ever taken a drive on the beach and seen so many NASCAR bars and so forth and souvenirs? I actually had an opportunity to do that today. I've done it in the past, but I paid more attention to it today, folks, as we drove down, where there's a lot of NASCAR auto racing bars down here, as well as restaurants and, of course, souvenir shops. You ever had a chance to see that before?
Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to explore a lot of that too much. My schedule during baseball season here in Daytona is generally basically split between sleeping at home and coming here to the ballpark and basically making my camp out here at the Jack. But definitely want to explore a little bit more and see some of that. But I definitely know there's a lot of diehard NASCAR fans in and around this area, and it doesn't surprise me at all that there are countless themed restaurants and shops and stores that have a cavalcade of NASCAR memorabilia and merchandise, whether it be by the beach or further away, closer towards the Speedway here on the mainland side. So it doesn't surprise me at all that this is a very NASCAR passionate area, and so it doesn't surprise me at all that they've got that down there.
It's not uncommon that you have a major NASCAR track with a lot of professional baseball. I know you have obviously Atlanta, you have Charlotte, of course you have Daytona, which I think is the kingpin of them all, Indianapolis, just to name a few. And of course Bristol, believe it or not, I know that I believe they have a Class A ball up there. And of course we all know about the Bristol Motor Speedway. But there isn't anything when you get the big daddy of them all, the Daytona International Speedway and Jackie Robinson Park. You cannot have two more historic venues in a tourist area than I see here.
It's a great question, that's for sure. I know Obviously, Atlanta's got the Braves, and Charlotte has a beautiful stadium there with the Charlotte Knights. In addition to that, mentioned Bristol Motor Speedway, the Appalachian League.
Right.
The first NASCAR, stadium I ever went to was Bristol Motor Speedway. The summers working in East Tennessee. Shortly after I graduated college, but that's a great point. Between the Daytona International Speedway and Jackie Robinson Ballpark, there is a ton of history for both sports here in Daytona Beach. And you look at Charlotte, that stadium's rather new.
Right.
Atlanta, the Braves have been at 3 different stadiums since I've been born. The list goes on and on. But there's definitely something unique about having the Motor Speedway here, having the Jack, and quite frankly, if someone wanted to, if they're a big enough fan, they can sort of schedule a trip down here to see the race in the summer, and then stick around the week afterwards. And now with the way the schedule works in minor league baseball with a week-long series, which looks like it'll be the same way again next year, can make a 2-week vacation out of it down here.
Oh, is that right? They're planning to look at the week-long series. Is that something that you hear?
That's from what I've seen. Low A and High A have not released their schedules yet, but Double A and Triple A have. And Double A and Triple A do have the 6-game schedules this next season as well, Tuesday through Sunday with the Monday off day. So we haven't heard anything specifically about our schedule for next year yet. But if those are the cases with Double A and Triple A, we're anticipating the same here.
No kidding. And folks, just so you know, a long time ago, that the Daytona 500 was actually raced on the beach. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I think I've seen some old videos and stuff like that. Yeah, for sure.
So when you put a button on this broadcast, baseball, NASCAR in this area, Daytona gets it right in a lot of ways. Not only because of what happened on the beach, but geez, you're like a couple of miles down the road over Daytona. And of course, we can't forget the Motorsports Hall of Fame. So there's certainly enough time for tourists to come here and be able to go ahead and tie a lot of time into the area, be able to get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that's part of the fun of Daytona Beach. There's a lot of things to do. There's a lot of different historical things in and around here, not only with those two, but Bethune-Cookman University as well. So the list goes on and on. There's just a lot of history in and around this area, and we're lucky to be able to try and showcase that.
Well, you know what, folks, it's been once again a great opportunity to come up here to Daytona for the weekend. And Justin, you, Jim Jaworski, Bob Fragoli, the young professor, okay, the beat goes on, and to be able to come here and be able to do so much and promote the area, baseball, auto racing, and whatnot, etc. Maybe we'll have to use etc. as a hashtag on this because there's so much meat to what we're doing. But folks, my name is Scott Morgan, Motor City Mad Mouth. Glad to be joined by Justin Rocke, the main man here in Daytona, does broadcasting, does PR, and does an awful lot of stuff to make sure that the folks in the Reds organization are informed of the guys of the future. It's been such a pleasure working with these folks. It really is. I thought Act 1 was good before. Act 2 is becoming just as good, if not even better. But the main thing of this episode here of the Sports Exchange is we're tying NASCAR to baseball, the Daytona International Speedway to Jackie Robinson Ballpark. Folks, it doesn't get any better. So this is one time when you can take your cake and eat it too. And yes, I don't mind using a cliche where you have auto racing and baseball all rolled into one. Well, Justin, anything else you want to say about the 2021 season here about Daytona Tortugas Baseball?
No, just very lucky that we've been able to get through this season without any sort of blips on the radar. Not every team in minor league baseball has been so lucky, and we've just been extremely grateful for the fan support after a year off in 2020, which wasn't ideal, but it's just been great to be back, and hard to believe that today is the last hurrah.
Yeah, it sure is. And one other thing I have before we close the broadcast here is it is nice to see two organizations work together, like the NASCAR / Daytona International Speedway and the Tortugas working together, because you guys all are in the same community. So whether it's Bill France, Jackie Robinson, whatever, this is such a great collective effort to be able to go ahead and tie the sports together. Just so you know, this episode can be found on www.scottsports33.com, and you can also follow us on Twitter @TribuneSouth. And of course, Justin, you want to go ahead and give everybody a way that they can reach you as well?
You can follow me on Twitter @Justin Rocke, ROCKE, And you can also always follow the Daytona Tortugas at Daytona Tortugas on social media.
All right, folks, that completes this episode of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan on Motor City Madmouth, here from beautiful Daytona Beach, Florida, over this Labor Day weekend. And Justin, once again, when we think we can top one act, we always find a way to do it again. All right, folks, we'll catch you on the next time on the Sports Exchange. Have a great Labor Day weekend, and folks, be safe out there.